I trusted my mother-in-law completely. That was my first mistake. My second, believing she could ever love my daughter the way a grandmother should. But on Christmas Eve, when she looked at my 5-year-old and said those words that would haunt us forever, I realized I'd been living a lie. And when you corner a mother protecting her child, well, let's just say some people learn too late that revenge isn't always loud. Sometimes, it's deadly quiet. My name is Sarah, and this is the story of how one Christmas destroyed everything, and how I made sure it stayed destroyed. It started 3 years ago when I married David. His mother, Margaret, seemed like the perfect mother-in-law at first. Always bringing gifts, always smiling, always asking about little Emma. My daughter from my previous marriage was only 2 then, and Margaret would coo over her, call her my sweet granddaughter, and shower her with attention. I should have seen the signs. The way her smile never quite reached her eyes when she looked at Emma. How she always positioned herself between Emma and her son during family photos. The subtle comments about blood being thicker than water that I brushed off as harmless old-fashioned thinking. But love makes you blind, doesn't it? I was so desperate for Emma to have a complete family, so grateful that David accepted her as his own, that I ignored every red flag waving in front of me. The first crack appeared last Christmas. We were opening presents, and Emma was excitedly showing Margaret a drawing she'd made at school. "Look, Grandma Margaret. I drew our whole family," she chirped, her little face glowing with pride. Margaret took the paper, stared at it for a long moment, and then set it aside without a word. No praise. No smile. Nothing. Emma's face fell, and I watched my baby's confidence crumble in real time. "She worked so hard on that," I said quietly to Margaret later in the kitchen. "I'm sure she did," Margaret replied, not looking up from the dishes. "But let's not pretend this is anything more than what it is, Sarah. She's not really family." My blood ran cold. "What did you say?" "You heard me. She's a sweet child, but she's not David's daughter. She's not my granddaughter. There's a difference." I wanted to scream. I wanted to grab her by the shoulders and shake her until she understood that Emma was just a little girl who wanted nothing more than to be loved. Instead, I swallowed my rage and warned David about his mother's attitude. "She didn't mean anything by it, Sarah," he said, already making excuses. "You know how she is about family traditions. Give her time." Time. As if time could cure the poison in someone's heart. But I gave her time. I gave her chances. I spent the entire year trying to bridge the gap between Margaret and Emma, hoping, praying that maternal instinct would kick in eventually. I was fighting a war I didn't even know had been declared. This Christmas, I decided to host dinner at our house. A fresh start, I thought. New traditions. Maybe being in our space would help Margaret see Emma as part of the family. I spent weeks planning the perfect Christmas Eve dinner. Emma helped me decorate cookies, wrap presents, and set the table with our best china. She was so excited to show Grandma Margaret her room, her new drawings, the little Christmas play she'd practiced for weeks. "Mommy, do you think Grandma Margaret will like my play?" Emma asked while we were putting final touches on the decorations. "I'm sure she will, sweetheart. You've worked so hard on it." But even as I said the words, something cold settled in my stomach. A mother's instinct, maybe. A warning I should have listened to. David arrived first with his mother, and immediately I could sense the tension. Margaret's smile was tight, forced. She barely acknowledged Emma's excited greeting, instead focusing all her attention on David. "The house looks lovely, dear," she said to me, though her tone suggested otherwise. "Very festive." Emma bounded up to her with a homemade card. "Grandma Margaret, I made this for you." Margaret took the card, glanced at it briefly, and then set it on the side table without even opening it. "How nice, dear." My jaw clenched, but I forced myself to stay calm. For Emma. For David. For the sake of keeping the family together. Dinner went relatively smoothly, though I noticed Margaret barely spoke to Emma, even when my daughter tried repeatedly to engage her in conversation. After we'd finished eating and the adults were having coffee, Emma disappeared to her room and came back in her little red dress. "I have a surprise," she announced, her eyes sparkling with joy. "I learned a Christmas poem at school, and I want to perform it for everyone." David clapped encouragingly. "That's wonderful, sweetheart. We'd love to hear it." Emma positioned herself in front of the Christmas tree, took a deep breath, and began to recite her poem with all the earnest concentration of a 5-year-old who wanted to make everyone proud. "Christmas is a time for family. Christmas is a time for love. We gather all together, like angels from above." She was perfect. Absolutely perfect. Her little voice clear and sweet, her hands gesturing dramatically at all the right moments. My heart swelled with pride watching my daughter pour her whole heart into this performance. When she finished, she took a little bow and looked expectantly at Margaret, waiting for approval, waiting for praise, waiting for love. The silence stretched on forever. David clapped enthusiastically. "That was beautiful, Emma." "Wasn't that beautiful, Mom?" Margaret set down her coffee cup with deliberate precision. She looked at Emma, then at David, then at me. And then she said the words that would change everything. "This is ridiculous, David. I can't pretend anymore." "Mom, what are you talking about?" Margaret stood up, her face cold as winter. "This charade. This pretense that this child belongs in our family. She doesn't." The room went deadly quiet. Emma's smile faded, confusion replacing joy on her little face. "Margaret," I warned, my voice low and dangerous. But she wasn't done. She turned to Emma, looked my 5-year-old daughter directly in the eyes, and delivered the blow that would haunt me forever. "You are not my granddaughter. You never were, and you never will be. This isn't your family, little girl. You don't belong here." Emma's face crumpled. The confusion in her eyes turned to hurt, then to devastation. She looked at me, then at David, then back at Margaret, trying to understand why the woman she'd called Grandma was being so cruel. But I made you a card," she whispered, her voice breaking. "I don't want your card. I want you to understand that you are not part of this family. You're just extra. A burden we've all been pretending to carry." That's when Emma started to cry. Not the normal crying of a child who didn't get her way, but the deep, soul-crushing sobs of a little girl whose heart was being ripped apart by someone she trusted. "Margaret, stop this right now." David finally found his voice, but it was too late. The damage was done. "No, David. I'm tired of tiptoeing around this. She's not your daughter. She's not my granddaughter. And I'm tired of pretending otherwise." Margaret grabbed her purse and headed for the door. "When you're ready to stop playing house and focus on your real family, call me." She paused at the door, turned back to look at Emma who was sobbing in my arms, and delivered her final blow. "Get out of my sight, child. You're not my granddaughter. You never will be." And then she left, slamming the door behind her, leaving my daughter broken and my marriage hanging by a thread. I held Emma while she cried, her small body shaking with the force of her sobs. "Mommy, why doesn't Grandma Margaret love me? What did I do wrong?" My heart shattered into a million pieces. "You didn't do anything wrong, baby. Nothing at all. Grandma Margaret is the one who's wrong." But how do you explain cruelty to a 5-year-old? How do you tell your child that sometimes people are just evil, and there's nothing you can do to change them? David stood there, frozen, caught between his mother and his family. And in that moment, I knew exactly where his loyalties lay. "Say something," I demanded. She was upset. She didn't mean, "Don't." My voice was ice. "Don't you dare make excuses for her. She just destroyed your daughter's Christmas, her trust, her sense of belonging, and you're going to defend her. Emma's not my daughter, Sarah. You know that." The words hit me like a physical blow. After 3 years of marriage, after 3 years of him claiming to love Emma like his own, the truth finally came out. I picked up Emma and carried her to her room, got her ready for bed while she was still crying, still asking why Grandma Margaret hated her. I sang her to sleep, stroking her hair and promising her that Mommy would fix everything. But I didn't know how to fix a broken heart. When I came back to the living room, David was cleaning up the dinner dishes like nothing had happened. "We need to talk," I said. "Look, I know Mom was harsh tonight, but she's been part of my life for 42 years, Sarah. I can't just cut her off. She emotionally abused our daughter. She's not our daughter. She's your daughter. There it was again. The truth he'd been hiding behind false smiles and empty promises. "Get out," I said quietly. "What?" "Get out of my house. Get out of our lives. If you can't stand up for Emma, if you can't protect her from your mother's cruelty, then you're not the man I thought I married." "Sarah, you're being dramatic. It's just a difficult adjustment period. Mom will come around." I laughed, but there was no humor in it. 3 years, David. 3 years of adjustment period. Your mother just told a 5-year-old child that she doesn't belong in this family, and you're worried about making Mom uncomfortable? She's my mother. And Emma is my daughter. And if you can't choose her, then get out. He left that night. Packed a bag and went to stay with Margaret, which told me everything I needed to know about where his priorities lay. I spent the rest of Christmas Eve sitting in Emma's room, watching her sleep, planning my next move. Because Margaret thought she'd won. She thought she'd driven us away, eliminated the burden from her perfect family. She had no idea what she'd just unleashed. The next morning, Emma woke up sad and confused. "Is Daddy coming back, Mommy? Did I make him leave too?" The question broke me. My little girl thought she was responsible for the adults in her life abandoning her. "No, baby. You didn't do anything wrong. Sometimes grown-ups make bad choices, and that's not your fault." I made her breakfast, let her open her presents, and tried to salvage what was left of Christmas. But I could see the damage Margaret had done. Emma was withdrawn, quiet, constantly asking if people loved her, if she belonged, if she was good enough. That afternoon, my phone rang. "Margaret. I hope you're happy," she said without preamble. "David is devastated. You've torn this family apart." "I didn't tear anything apart, Margaret. You did. The moment you decided to traumatize a child. That child was never part of this family. I was just honest about it. That child has a name. And she's 5 years old. And you're a monster. I'm a realist. David deserves better than playing father to another man's mistake." The rage that filled me in that moment was unlike anything I'd ever experienced. White-hot and consuming, it burned away every rational thought except one. She was going to pay for what she'd done to my daughter. "You know what, Margaret? You win. We'll stay away from your perfect family." "Good. It's what's best for everyone." I hung up the phone and sat in the silence of my living room, surrounded by Christmas decorations and torn wrapping paper, my daughter's quiet sobbing drifting down from her bedroom. That's when I made the decision that would change everything. I picked up my phone and sent a single text message to someone I hadn't spoken to in years. Someone who owed me a favor. A big favor. "I need to see you. Tonight." Within an hour, I got a response. "Consider it done." I called my sister to come watch Emma, told her it was an emergency, and drove across town to a place I'd sworn I'd never return to. Marcus Rivera had been my professor in college, then my mentor, then something more complicated. He was the reason I'd changed my major from education to investigative journalism. He was also the reason I'd learned that everyone has secrets, and that information is the most powerful weapon in the world. He owned a private investigation firm now, specialized in corporate espionage and personal reputation management. Rich people paid him to find dirt on their enemies, or to bury their own scandals. He was very good at what he did, and he owed me for keeping his name out of a story that would have ruined his career. "Sarah." He looked older now, grayer, but his eyes were still sharp as knives. "It's been a long time. I need help, Marcus. And I'm calling in that favor." He poured 2 glasses of whiskey and settled back in his chair. "Tell me everything." So I did. I told him about Margaret, about David, about what had happened to Emma. I watched his expression grow darker with every word. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment. "You want her destroyed," he said finally. "I want her to understand what it feels like to lose everything. Revenge is expensive, Sarah. And it's permanent. Once we start down this road, there's no going back. She made that choice when she decided to hurt my daughter." Marcus nodded slowly. "Give me 2 weeks. I'll have everything we need." I spent those 2 weeks taking care of Emma, trying to help her heal from the trauma Margaret had inflicted. I also spent time researching, using my journalism skills to dig into Margaret's life, her finances, her reputation, her precious social standing that meant more to her than anything else. What I found was interesting. Very interesting. Margaret Patterson lived in a beautiful house in the most exclusive neighborhood in town. She was president of the country club, chair of several charitable organizations, and considered herself the queen of local high society. She'd built her entire identity around being respectable, being above reproach, being better than everyone else. She'd also built it all on lies. 2 weeks later, Marcus called me. Meet me at the usual place. And Sarah, bring your checkbook. This is going to be expensive, but it's going to be worth every penny. I met him at a small cafe across town, somewhere nobody would recognize us. He slid a thick manila envelope across the table. Everything you need is in here. Financial records, personal correspondence, medical records, property deeds. Your mother-in-law has been a very busy woman. I opened the envelope and started reading. With each page, my eyes grew wider and my smile grew more satisfied. How did you get all this? You don't want to know. But it's all legitimate, all admissible, all verifiable. The question is, how far are you willing to go? I thought about Emma crying herself to sleep. I thought about the way she'd started asking if I loved her, if I was going to leave her too, if she was worth keeping. I thought about Margaret's cold eyes and cruel words. As far as it takes. Marcus leaned back and smiled. It wasn't a pleasant expression. Then let's destroy her. The plan was elegant in its simplicity. We weren't going to attack Margaret directly. We were going to let her destroy herself. It started with an anonymous tip to the IRS about some discrepancies in Margaret's tax filings. Turns out, she'd been claiming charitable deductions for donations she'd never actually made. The fake receipts were beautifully forged, but they were still fake. While the IRS began their investigation, Marcus leaked some interesting information to the local newspaper about Margaret's role as treasurer of the Children's Christmas Fund charity. Specifically, about how donations meant for underprivileged children had somehow found their way into Margaret's personal renovation projects. The third piece of the puzzle was the most devastating. Medical records showing that Margaret had been receiving treatment for a gambling addiction for the past 5 years. The same 5 years she'd been managing her husband's estate after his death. Her dead husband's estate that was supposed to go to David. The estate that was now mysteriously almost empty. I watched the dominoes fall from the comfort of my living room, Emma playing with her toys at my feet, slowly returning to her normal happy self as we built new traditions and healed together. The first call came on a Tuesday morning. Margaret, hysterical. Sarah, something terrible is happening. Someone is spreading lies about me. The IRS is asking questions, the newspaper is sniffing around. I think someone is trying to frame me. That's terrible, Margaret. I hope you figure out who would want to hurt you. You have to talk to David. You have to tell him this is all lies. I haven't spoken to David in weeks, Margaret. Remember? You got your wish. We're out of your family. The second call came 2 days later. This time she was desperate. They froze my bank accounts, Sarah. The charity board voted me out. The country club is reviewing my membership. My lawyer says there might be criminal charges. I'm sorry to hear that. You don't understand. This could ruin me. My reputation, my standing in the community, everything I've worked for my entire life. I do understand, actually. I understand what it feels like to watch someone destroy something precious to you. I understand what it feels like to be powerless while someone you trusted betrays you. There was silence on the other end of the line. This is about Christmas, isn't it? About what I said to Emma. You called a 5-year-old child a burden, Margaret. You told her she didn't belong in this family. You broke her heart on Christmas Eve. She's not my granddaughter. She was a child who loved you. Who trusted you. Who made you cards and drew you pictures and just wanted you to love her back. And you destroyed her. I was just being honest. You were being cruel. And now you know what it feels like. I hung up on her and blocked her number. But the calls kept coming, from different numbers, at all hours of the day and night. By the end of the week, Margaret's world was collapsing. The IRS investigation had uncovered not just tax fraud, but embezzlement from multiple charities. The missing money from her husband's estate had been traced through a paper trail of gambling debts and fraudulent loans. David had been questioned by investigators, his own finances scrutinized. His law practice was under review by the state bar. His perfect life with his perfect mother was falling apart, one revelation at a time. The local newspaper ran a front-page story, Charity Queen's House of Cards, local society maven accused of embezzling thousands from children's charities. The article was devastating. It detailed not just the financial crimes, but the lifestyle Margaret had been living on stolen money. The expensive clothes, the luxury vacations, the renovations to her house, all paid for with donations meant for underprivileged children. The irony was perfect. Margaret, who had called my daughter a burden, had been stealing from children for years. I was reading the article online when Emma climbed onto my lap. "Mommy, who's that sad lady in the picture?" I looked at the photo of Margaret being led away from her house in handcuffs, her face twisted with rage and humiliation. "Just someone who made bad choices, sweetheart. She looks mean." Yes, she was very mean. But she can't hurt anyone anymore. The phone rang. Unknown number. "Sarah, please. You have to help me." It was David, and he sounded broken. "They arrested her. My mother is in jail. The house is being seized. My practice is under investigation. Everything is falling apart. I'm sorry to hear that. This is your doing, isn't it? Somehow, you orchestrated all of this." "I don't know what you mean. Don't lie to me. This is too convenient, too perfectly timed. You're behind this. David, your mother embezzled money from children's charities. She committed tax fraud. She gambled away your inheritance. I didn't make her do any of those things. But you exposed her. Someone did. Someone who apparently thinks children deserve better than having their Christmas donations stolen by selfish, cruel women. She's my mother, Sarah. Whatever she did, she's still my mother. And Emma is my daughter. And when your mother destroyed her Christmas, when she looked my 5-year-old in the eyes and told her she didn't belong, she declared war on the wrong family. You've ruined our lives." "No, David. You ruined your own lives. You chose your mother over your family. You stood by while she abused a child. You called Emma not your daughter after 3 years of marriage. You made your choices, and now you're living with the consequences. I loved you." "No, you didn't. If you loved me, you would have protected Emma. If you loved me, you would have stood up to your mother years ago. If you loved me, you would have chosen us. What am I supposed to do now? Learn to live with the consequences of your choices. Just like Emma had to learn to live with the consequences of your mother's cruelty." I hung up and blocked his number too. That night, Emma and I made cookies and watched Christmas movies. She was laughing again, playing again, being a normal 5-year-old again. The damage Margaret had done was healing, slowly but surely. "Mommy, are we going to have a good Christmas this year?" "The best Christmas ever, baby. Just you and me. I'm glad Daddy and Grandma Margaret aren't coming. They made me sad." "I know, sweetheart. But they can't make you sad anymore." The final act played out over the next several months. Margaret was convicted on multiple counts of fraud and embezzlement. She was sentenced to 5 years in prison and ordered to pay restitution to all the charities she'd robbed. Her house was sold to pay her debts. Her membership to the country club was revoked. Her name was removed from all the charitable boards and social organizations that had once worshipped her. David's law license was suspended pending investigation. His practice folded. He had to sell his own house to pay for his mother's legal defense. The perfect family that had rejected my daughter was destroyed, their reputation in ruins, their financial security gone, their social standing obliterated. But I wasn't done yet. 6 months after Margaret's sentencing, I got a call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Sarah. This is Margaret." My blood ran cold. "How are you calling me? I thought you were in prison. I get phone privileges." "Sarah, please, I need to talk to you. I need to tell you something important." I have nothing to say to you. It's about Emma. Please, just listen. Against my better judgment, I didn't hang up. What about Emma? I need you to know that I'm sorry. What I did to her was unforgivable. She was just a little girl, and I took my anger out on her. She didn't deserve that. I was quiet, waiting. I've had a lot of time to think in here. About the choices I made, the person I became. I lost everything, Sarah. My freedom, my reputation, my son. I lost it all because I couldn't accept a beautiful little girl into my family. Good. I deserve this. I deserve all of it. But I need you to know that Emma was never the problem. I was the problem. I was jealous and bitter and cruel, and I took it out on an innocent child. You're right. You were cruel. And Emma will remember what you did to her for the rest of her life. I know. And I'll have to live with that for the rest of mine. But Sarah, I need you to know something else. What? David didn't know. About the money, about what I was doing. He's innocent in all of this. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. David knew exactly who you were, Margaret. He chose to enable you, to protect you, to defend you even when you were destroying his family. He's not innocent. He's complicit. He lost everything too. He lost everything because he chose you over Emma. Because when it mattered most, he showed his true colors. That's not my fault, and it's not Emma's fault. That's on him. There was silence on the line. I'm dying, Sarah. That caught me off guard. What? Cancer. The doctors say I have maybe 6 months. The stress, the guilt, my body is shutting down. I felt nothing. No sympathy, no satisfaction, just emptiness. I'm not calling for pity, Margaret continued. I'm calling to ask you for something I don't deserve. What? Forgiveness. Not for me, but for Emma. I don't want her to grow up carrying hate in her heart. I don't want what I did to poison her ability to trust and love. Emma is fine. She's happy, she's healthy, and she's learned that her mother will always protect her. But she's also learned that families can be cruel. That grandmothers can betray the children who love them. That's on me, and I'm so sorry. I closed my eyes, thinking of Emma upstairs doing her homework, humming to herself, completely unaware that the woman who had hurt her so badly was slowly dying in a prison cell. I can't forgive you, Margaret. What you did was unforgivable. But Emma doesn't need to carry your poison. She's already moved past it. Will you tell her that I'm sorry? Someday, when she's older, when she can understand? Maybe. If she asks about you. But Margaret? Yes. She's already forgotten you. She doesn't think about you, doesn't ask about you, doesn't wonder where you are or why you're gone. You're nothing to her now. Less than nothing. I heard her sob on the other end of the line. That's more than you deserve, I continued. The fact that she's not haunted by what you did to her, that she's not damaged by your cruelty, that she's thriving and happy and secure in my love, that's more mercy than you showed her. I know. Good. Don't call me again. I hung up and deleted the number. Margaret Patterson died 4 months later in the prison infirmary, alone and forgotten. The obituary in the local paper was 3 lines long. No memorial service was held. David didn't even claim her body. I didn't tell Emma. There was no point. She'd built a new life, made new friends, started calling my sister auntie and my parents grandma and grandpa. She had a family who loved her unconditionally, who celebrated her, who would never make her feel like she didn't belong. 2 years later, I was at Emma's school Christmas pageant, watching her play an angel in the nativity play. She was radiant, confident, surrounded by friends who adored her. After the performance, she ran to me with arms wide open. Did you see me, Mommy? Did you see me fly? I saw you, baby. You were perfect. I felt like I was really flying. Like I could do anything. You can do anything, Emma. You're brilliant and beautiful and strong, and you can do absolutely anything you set your mind to. As we walked to the car, Emma chattering about her friends and her lines and how much fun she'd had, I felt someone watching us. I turned around and saw David standing by the school entrance, older now, grayer, defeated. He looked at Emma, then at me, and I could see the regret in his eyes. The understanding of what he'd given up, what he'd lost, what he could never get back. I felt nothing for him. No anger, no satisfaction, no pity. Just nothing. Emma didn't notice him. She was too busy telling me about her plans for Christmas break, about the cookies we were going to bake and the movies we were going to watch and all the adventures we had planned. She'd forgotten him too. Just like she'd forgotten his mother. They'd both become irrelevant to her happiness. That night, after Emma was asleep, I sat in my living room with a cup of tea, looking at our Christmas tree. The ornaments were different now, handmade decorations Emma and I had created together, photos of just the two of us, memories of the new traditions we'd built. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. She looks happy. I knew it was David without having to ask. He must have seen us at the school. I typed back, she is happy. We both are. I made a mistake, Sarah. The biggest mistake of my life. Yes, you did. Is there any chance? Could we try again? I've learned from this. I would do better. I laughed out loud at the audacity of it. After everything that had happened, after the pain he'd caused, after standing by while his mother destroyed Emma's sense of belonging, he thought he could just walk back into our lives. No, David. There's no going back. Emma doesn't need a father who chooses other people over her. She doesn't need a family who makes her feel like she has to earn love. I would protect her now. I would put her first. You had your chance to put her first. You chose your mother instead. Emma deserves better than someone who has to learn how to love her. What am I supposed to do without you? Without Emma? Live with your choices. Just like you expected Emma to live with your mother's cruelty. I lost everything, Sarah. My mother, my practice, my family, everything. And Emma almost lost everything too. Her confidence, her trust, her belief that she was worthy of love. The only difference is that I made sure she didn't have to live with that loss. I blocked his number and put my phone away. The next morning, Emma woke up excited about making Christmas cookies. We spent the day in the kitchen, flour in our hair, frosting on our faces, laughing until our sides hurt. Mommy, this is the best Christmas ever, she said, decorating a cookie with green and red sprinkles. Every Christmas with you is the best Christmas ever, baby. Will it always be just us? Would you like it to always be just us? She considered this seriously, the way 7-year-olds do when asked important questions. I like it being just us. You love me no matter what, and you never make me feel bad about myself. That's all I need. My heart swelled with pride and love and fierce protectiveness. This beautiful, confident, secure little girl was proof that sometimes the best revenge isn't destruction, it's building something better from the ashes. That's all I need too, Emma. You're my whole world. We finished our cookies and hung them on the tree like edible ornaments. Emma danced around the living room to Christmas music while I cleaned up the kitchen, both of us completely content with our small, perfect family. That evening, as I was tucking Emma into bed, she looked up at me with serious eyes. Mommy, do you remember that lady who was mean to me at Christmas? My blood went cold. It was the first time she'd mentioned Margaret in months. What made you think of her, sweetheart? I saw a sad man at school today, and he looked like he wanted to talk to us, but you didn't see him. He looked like Daddy David, but sadder. So she had noticed. Children see more than we think they do. What did you think when you saw him? I felt sorry for him. He looked lonely. But then I remembered how he didn't stand up for me when the mean lady said those things, and I didn't feel sorry anymore. I was amazed by her clarity, her ability to process complex emotions and relationships. How do you feel about all of that now, Emma? I feel happy that they're not in our life anymore. They made me feel small and unwanted. But you make me feel big and loved. You are big and loved. You're the most important person in my world. I know. And that's why I don't need them. I have everything I need with just you. She fell asleep with a smile on her face, completely secure in the knowledge that she was cherished and protected and valued. I stood in her doorway for a long time, watching her sleep, thinking about the journey we'd taken to get to this place. The pain, the betrayal, the revenge, the healing, all of it had led us here, to this moment of perfect peace. 3 years had passed since that terrible Christmas Eve when Margaret had tried to destroy my daughter's spirit. 3 years since she'd called Emma a burden and told her she didn't belong. Now Margaret was dead, her reputation destroyed, her legacy one of fraud and cruelty. David was alone, broke, disgraced, haunted by the choices he'd made. And Emma was thriving. She was confident, happy, surrounded by people who adored her. She knew without question that she was wanted, valued, cherished. She'd learned that when someone hurts you, you don't have to accept it, you can fight back, you can protect yourself, you can build something better. Most importantly, she'd learned that a mother's love is fierce and uncompromising and will move mountains to protect her child. The next morning was Christmas Eve, exactly 3 years after Margaret's attack on Emma. I woke up early and made Emma's favorite breakfast, then we spent the day building gingerbread houses and watching old Christmas movies. As evening approached, Emma helped me light candles around the house, making everything warm and cozy. We'd invited my sister and her family over for dinner, a new tradition we'd started to replace the toxic family gatherings of the past. While Emma was playing with her cousins, my sister pulled me aside. "You know, Sarah, I have to ask, what really happened with Margaret? I know she was arrested for fraud, but the timing was so convenient. Right after she hurt Emma." I smiled mysteriously. Sometimes I smiled mysteriously. Sometimes karma works in unexpected ways. "Sarah." "What?" "Margaret made her own choices. She chose to steal from children's charities. She chose to commit tax fraud. She chose to gamble away her family's inheritance. I didn't make her do any of those things. But you knew about them." "I suspected. And when someone attacks my daughter, I make it my business to know everything about them." My sister stared at me for a long moment. "You're terrifying when you're protecting Emma." "Good. That's exactly what I want people to understand." That night, after everyone had gone home and Emma was asleep, I sat by our Christmas tree with a glass of wine, reflecting on how different this Christmas Eve was from 3 years ago. 3 years ago, I'd been naive enough to believe that love could conquer cruelty, that time could heal wounds inflicted by toxic people, that family meant something beyond blood and genetics. Now I knew better. I knew that sometimes you have to fight fire with fire. Sometimes you have to be willing to destroy your enemies completely to protect the people you love. Sometimes the only way to stop a bully is to hit back harder than they hit you. Margaret had thought she could crush a 5-year-old spirit and walk away unscathed. She'd thought her position in society, her wealth, her connections would protect her from consequences. She'd been wrong. The phone rang, interrupting my thoughts. Unknown number, but I answered anyway. "Sarah." "It's Marcus." I hadn't heard from him since he'd helped me destroy Margaret's life. "Marcus. What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong. I just wanted to check in. I heard Margaret Patterson died in prison." "She did. Any regrets?" I thought about Emma sleeping peacefully upstairs, secure in the knowledge that she was loved and protected. I thought about the confidence she'd regained, the joy in her laugh, the way she lit up every room she entered. None. Good. What we did, it was justice, Sarah. That woman was a predator who targeted children, including your daughter. She got what she deserved. I know. I also heard David tried to contact you. He did. I told him no. Smart. Leopards don't change their spots. He showed you who he really was when it mattered most. Exactly. You've built a good life, Sarah. Emma's lucky to have you as a mother. I'm the lucky one. After I hung up, I checked on Emma one more time. She was sprawled across her bed, still smiling in her sleep, surrounded by stuffed animals and drawings and all the evidence of a childhood filled with love and security. Tomorrow was Christmas, and we had so many wonderful traditions planned. Pancakes shaped like Christmas trees, presents under our beautiful tree, Christmas movies in our pajamas, and dinner with the family that actually mattered, the one we'd chosen, not the one we'd been stuck with. Emma would never again have to wonder if she belonged, if she was wanted, if she was good enough. She would never again have to watch adults make excuses for cruelty or stand by while someone hurt her. She'd learned that her mother was her fiercest protector, and that some battles were worth fighting no matter the cost. But more than that, She'd learned that she was worth fighting for. I turned off the lights and headed to my own room, pausing at the top of the stairs to look down at our perfect Christmas tree, twinkling in the darkness like a beacon of hope and new beginnings. 3 years ago, Margaret Patterson had declared war on my family. She'd targeted the most innocent, most vulnerable member, a 5-year-old child who'd done nothing but love her. She'd expected me to accept it, to teach Emma to swallow the pain and move on, to let her cruelty go unanswered. Instead, I'd taught Emma something far more valuable, that when someone tries to destroy you, you don't have to lie down and take it. You can fight back. You can win. You can make sure they never hurt anyone else again. Margaret was dead now, her reputation in ruins, her legacy one of fraud and child abuse. David was alone, broke, haunted by his choices. And Emma was flourishing. As I lay down in my own bed, I felt a deep satisfaction settle over me. Not because I'd destroyed my enemies, though I had, but because I'd protected my daughter. I'd shown her that she was worth any battle, any sacrifice, any cost. Tomorrow was Christmas, and it would be perfect. Just like every Christmas would be from now on, because the people who tried to poison our joy were gone forever. I closed my eyes and smiled, thinking of Emma's excitement in the morning, her delight at her presence, her pure happiness at being exactly where she belonged. Some people might call what I did to Margaret and David excessive. They might say that revenge is wrong, that I should have turned the other cheek, that I should have taught Emma to forgive and forget. But those people had never watched their 5-year-old daughter sob herself to sleep after being told she didn't belong. They'd never seen the confusion and hurt in a child's eyes when the adults she trusted betrayed her. They'd never felt the fierce, protective rage of a mother whose cub had been attacked. I'd made my choice 3 years ago when I sent that first text message. I'd chosen to fight back, to protect my daughter, to make sure the people who'd hurt her could never hurt anyone else again. And I'd won. Completely, utterly, devastatingly. Emma was safe. Emma was loved. Emma was thriving. And that was worth everything. The last thing I thought about before falling asleep was Emma's words from earlier that evening. "You make me feel big and loved." Mission accomplished. Christmas morning dawned bright and cold, and Emma's excited squeals woke me up at exactly 6:47 a.m. She bounded into my room, eyes shining with anticipation. "Mommy. Mommy. It's Christmas. Can we open presents now? Please." I pulled her into bed with me for our traditional Christmas morning cuddles. "What do you think, sweetheart? Are you ready for the best Christmas ever?" "Yes. I've been good all year. I helped make cookies. I practiced my Christmas play. I think Santa will be really happy with me." My heart swelled as I looked at this confident, joyful little girl who had no idea how close she'd come to being broken 3 years ago. She had no memory of tears on Christmas morning, no lingering fear that she wasn't good enough for love. She was exactly what a 7-year-old should be on Christmas morning, pure excitement and innocent joy. "I think Santa will be very happy with you too. Come on, let's go see what he brought." We crept downstairs together, Emma practically vibrating with excitement. When she saw the presents under the tree, she gasped with delight. "Mommy, look how many there are. Santa must have worked really hard." I watched her tear into her presents with the enthusiasm only children can muster, her face lighting up with each new surprise. Art supplies, books, a new bike, clothes she'd specifically requested, everything chosen with love and care to make her feel special and cherished. But the best present was one I hadn't wrapped, her complete security in knowing she was exactly where she belonged. As she played with her new toys, I made our traditional Christmas pancakes shaped like Christmas trees, listening to her chatter about her plans for the day. She was making voices for her new stuffed animals, creating elaborate games, lost in the pure imagination of childhood. This was what Margaret had tried to destroy. This innocence, this joy, this unshakable confidence that she was loved. Margaret had failed. Spectacularly. My phone buzzed with Christmas texts from friends and family, all wishing us well, all part of the chosen family that had rallied around Emma and me. My sister, my parents, my colleagues, our neighbors, people who had seen Emma grow from a traumatized 5-year-old into this radiant little girl and had been part of her healing journey. One text stood out from the others. Another unknown number. "Merry Christmas, Sarah." I hope Emma knows how lucky she is to have you. A friend. I stared at the message for a long moment. It could have been from anyone, Marcus, one of his contacts, maybe even someone from Margaret's past who was glad to see justice served. Whoever it was understood what this was really about: protecting a child, ensuring her happiness, making sure she never doubted her worth again. I deleted the message and put my phone away. Today was about Emma, about celebration, about the beautiful life we'd built together from the ashes of betrayal. "Mommy, come play with me," Emma called from the living room. "My new princess needs a voice, and you do the best princess voice." I joined her on the floor, surrounded by wrapping paper and new toys and the warm glow of Christmas lights. For the next few hours, we were just a mother and daughter playing together on Christmas morning, creating memories that would last forever. Later that evening, after Christmas dinner with my sister's family, after Emma had fallen asleep surrounded by her new treasures, I stood in my kitchen cleaning up the last of the dishes. Through the window, I could see our neighbor's house, decorated with lights and filled with their own family celebrations. Normal families doing normal Christmas things, secure in their traditions and their love for each other. 3 years ago, I'd thought we were a normal family too. I'd thought love and patience and understanding could overcome anything. I'd believed that people were basically good, that family meant something sacred, that grandmothers loved their grandchildren unconditionally. I'd been naive. But I'd learned. I'd learned that sometimes love means fighting. Sometimes it means destroying the people who would destroy the ones you love. Sometimes it means being willing to do terrible things to protect innocent people from terrible people. Margaret Patterson had been a terrible person. She'd targeted a child, tried to break her spirit, attempted to convince her that she wasn't worthy of love or belonging. Margaret was dead now, her crimes exposed, her reputation destroyed, her legacy one of cruelty and theft. David had been her enabler, her protector, choosing his mother's comfort over his stepdaughter's well-being. David was alone now, broke and disgraced, haunted by the choices that had cost him everything. And Emma. Emma was upstairs sleeping peacefully, completely secure in the knowledge that her mother would move heaven and earth to protect her. I finished the dishes and turned off the kitchen lights, taking one last look at our beautiful Christmas tree before heading upstairs. Tomorrow we'd start new traditions, make new memories, continue building the life we'd created from the ruins of the old one. As I checked on Emma one final time, I found her still smiling in her sleep, clutching her new stuffed animal. On her nightstand was a drawing she'd made earlier, a picture of the two of us under a Christmas tree, both of us smiling, the words "My family" written in crayon at the bottom. My family. Not his family, not their family, ours. I kissed her forehead and whispered, "Sweet dreams, my brave girl. Mommy loves you more than all the stars in the sky." She stirred slightly, smiled wider in her sleep, and whispered back, "Love you too, Mommy." I closed her door and walked to my own room, thinking about the journey that had brought us to this place. The pain, the betrayal, the careful planning, the systematic destruction of our enemies, and finally, the healing. Some people might say I went too far. That I should have been the bigger person, turned the other cheek, taught Emma to forgive and forget. But those people had never seen what I'd seen, a 5-year-old child's heart breaking in real time as the woman she trusted told her she was unwanted, unloved, didn't belong. They'd never felt what I'd felt, the white-hot rage of a mother watching someone torture her baby. They'd never made the choice I'd made, to fight back with everything I had, to protect my child at any cost, to make sure the people who'd hurt her could never hurt anyone again. I'd made that choice 3 years ago when Margaret looked my daughter in the eyes and tried to destroy her spirit. I'd followed through on that choice when I picked up the phone and called Marcus. I'd finished what I started when I watched Margaret's world crumble around her, when David lost everything he'd valued more than his family, when both of them learned that actions have consequences. And now, 3 years later, I was living with the results of that choice. Emma was happy, healthy, confident, and secure. She knew without question that she was loved, protected, and valued. She'd learned that her mother was her fiercest advocate and would never let anyone hurt her. She'd also learned that she was worth fighting for. That lesson would serve her well for the rest of her life. As I settled into bed, I felt a deep peace settle over me. Not because I'd destroyed my enemies, though I had, but because I'd protected my daughter. I'd shown her that some battles are worth fighting, that some people are worth destroying, that love isn't always gentle. Sometimes love is fierce. Sometimes it's ruthless. Sometimes it requires you to become someone you never thought you could be. I'd become that person for Emma, and I'd do it again in a heartbeat. Tomorrow would bring new adventures, new joys, new memories with my beautiful daughter who would never again doubt her place in this world. Tonight, I would sleep peacefully knowing that the war was over, and we had won. The last thing I thought about before drifting off to sleep was Margaret's final phone call from prison, when she'd asked me to tell Emma she was sorry. I'd never told Emma about that call, and I never would. Emma didn't need Margaret's apologies or explanations or deathbed regrets. She didn't need to know that her tormentor had died alone and forgotten. All Emma needed to know was that she was loved, protected, and safe. And that when Christmas morning came again next year, and every year after that, she would wake up in a house filled with joy and security, surrounded by people who chose to love her, who celebrated her existence, who would never make her feel like she had to earn her place in their hearts. Margaret Patterson had tried to steal Christmas from my daughter. Instead, she'd given us the greatest gift of all, the knowledge that we were strong enough to survive anything, smart enough to fight back, and brave enough to build something beautiful from the ashes of betrayal. Emma would carry that strength with her for the rest of her life. And that night, as snow began to fall outside our warm, safe house, as my daughter slept peacefully upstairs surrounded by love and new toys and the absolute certainty that she belonged exactly where she was, I smiled and closed my eyes. The war was over. We had won. And nothing would ever be the same again. But this time, that was exactly what we wanted. What would you do in this situation? If someone tried to destroy your child's Christmas, their sense of belonging, their belief that they were worthy of love, how far would you go to protect them? Tell me in the comments. And if you enjoyed this story of a mother's fierce love and perfect revenge, hit like and subscribe so you don't miss the next story.